Barry Cantrell played 2 years in the NFL as a punter for the Cowboys. That was against Holy Cross, and I started laughing for 15 minutes, but I came back and my call ended with, "Holy Cross!" You remember that? Yeah. And then the season ended, and my last call as we signed up was 0-11. Could have been worse. They could have gone 0-12. Good night, everybody. That's not going into any Hall of Fame anytime. My wife and I just had a baby. And I say that for the cheap applause, because it's been done a trillion times, but also because everything you people say is true. You can never be prepared for parenting. You can think you might be prepared for your heart beating outside of its chest, because my heart is out of my body for the rest of my life. It belongs to Francesca. You think you might be prepared for the cocoon of horror that is the first diaper and every diaper that comes after that. You're never prepared for the vulnerability. We were in hour 47 of the labor. This is 2 weeks late as well, Francesca was. She was living in a 5-star resort. Why go anywhere, right? And, well, it's hour 47. We're at that moment. And I hear what I'm sure is the baby's first cry. And I start to cry. I'm getting emotional just thinking about this right now. And Sammy looks up at me and she goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "That's our baby's first cry. I'm crying." And she looks at me and she goes, "You dope, that's the suction vacuum." I thought my daughter was a vacuum. My first parenting mistake in the delivery Roomba that we were in. But point is, you're not prepared for anything. And none of us were prepared for what lies ahead and what was ahead of us when we stepped into Keating Hall and walked up to the 3rd floor because nobody was taking that elevator. Or now it's in a different space, I'm sure, right? It's around the Horn somewhere. And gotta plug. I mean, I'm putting food on the table for a daughter now. Nothing could have prepared us for that. But since I was 5 years old, I wanted to do something like this. I had a fake microphone, and I would say, "This is Anthony Reali broadcasting the Yankees." And that's what I sounded like at Fordham as well. And as I got older, you know, my idols in the business, Mike Kay and Mike Breen and Chris Carino and Bob Papa, I knew where they went, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And it was the second day of school, and I was out at the table meeting the people at FUV at that time. Mike Maffei and Chuck Costello were the guys on air there. Yeah. So nothing could prepare me for walking into that room. And people say nothing can prepare you for anything in this business. You know, who knows what lies ahead in this business 2 years from now, let alone 20 years from now. And it's different than when I left school and different than when these guys left school as well. But people who say that, that's baloney. They can take that back to Syracuse if they want. We've had a secret weapon. We've had a secret weapon at Fordham for 17 years, and that man is Bob Ahrens. Bob is a gift. Bob is a teacher, and that's very good because we're all students and we'll always be students. Bob is a listener, and that's very good because we all like to hear our own voice, but somebody's got to be listening. And Bob is a giver, and that's essential because every broadcaster is a taker. But he is a gift, and he's a friend, and I mean, my last couple of years have been very crazy, and Bob's been there for me for stuff outside of the business as well, and that I'm forever grateful. But we all have Bob's stories, and I'm sure we're going to get to some on this video coming up in a second. But for me, I was Bob's first class, along with Connell McShane, and then Andrew Bogish and Darwin Zook and Mike Yam came soon after that, and Spiro, of course. I remember where I was when Spiro walked into the room. I was in Blacksburg for a game against Virginia Tech, and my best friend in the world, like Mike Kay, my best friends are the people I went to school with at FUV and did one-on-one with, is Christopher Rosen. He's now a writer for the Huffington Post, got out of sports, writes for the Huffington Post. And he said, there's a Greek kid from Jersey who just came into the room and he laid down some tracks. And I go, "Oh yeah, how'd he go? How'd he do?" And he goes, "Stay in Blacksburg." This is exactly, and that's absolutely true. So, you know, Marty Glickman, rest his soul, you know, he said something, he said a lot of things to me. He had that mustache and the muscles. "Anthony, with that voice, you'll never make it in this business." That's what he said to me. And that was something I needed to hear at that time. I was always Bob's work in progress, I think, with an accent from Staten Island in New Jersey, which is the armpit of the universe. Those workshops we did, 60 minutes, 2 minutes on what Spiro could maybe work on, and 57 minutes on why I should get into newspaper. There's tapes that I will pay cash money to never get out. But I was Bob's work in progress. So we all have stories about Bob, and you'll hear those stories. But for me, it's more about a piece of advice that Bob gave me, which is probably the best piece of advice I've ever got in my life. It came not long after meeting him. And we're in one of these workshops, and I had some battles with Marty over how I would describe games or how much stand-up material I would try to do in the middle of a broadcast. But Bob was listening, and Bob understood that there's a way to call a game that's going to be Spiro's way, and there was a way to call a game or to do one-on-one that was going to be my way. But Bob said something to me that sticks with me, and it's about taking criticism, listening to criticism, saying yes to that constructive criticism. Bob told me to say yes more. Bob said to say yes to the easy questions, yes to the difficult questions, yes to the criticism, yes to the opportunities. So, there was a movie a few years back with Jim Carrey and the lovable Zooey Deschanel called Yes Man, about a guy who says yes all the time to all the questions. And Bob gave me that same lesson, so you should have been a producer in Hollywood. And hey, I was 22, and I was happy writing trivia questions for a game show in New York for ESPN. And I heard about a job opening where I was going to be a researcher with some guys I really admired in the business named Kornheiser and Wilbon. And I said yes to a job that was off air, even though my goal was to be on air. And then 2 weeks later, they created a position called Stat Boy. I wasn't supposed to be on air, but it happened that way. A year and a half later, there's a show called Around the Horn. And it was the night of the Patriots-Panthers Super Bowl, which is where Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction happened. And I got a call at halftime right after that saying, we need somebody to fill in for Around the Horn tomorrow. We have nobody within 300 miles because this is a Super Bowl. People in Miami, people in Bristol. Can you fill in for Around the Horn tomorrow? I said yes. And I've been sitting in that chair for now 11 and a half years. I got a call from Good Morning America a few months ago. And I said yes. Now, I've never even seen morning television. I'm not really familiar with Good Morning America. Who knows how that will work out? But I know, with the advice Bob gave me, you know, to say yes and to challenge yourself and to be open, that's opened so many doors. And I have a feeling there's a lot of people in this room who can say the same exact thing about taking chances and taking opportunities. So I want to thank Bob for that advice, of course. I want to congratulate Bob for being the second recipient of the Bob Ahrens Lifetime Achievement Award. That's a joke. I mean, I want to thank you for being a friend and a mentor, and thank everybody in this room for making this a wonderful night. Thank you, Linda and Bobby as well.